It's time for today's Faceoff on Foxsoul. Our challengers, community activist Quanell X and former police officer, judge, and current criminal attorney Charles Big Angry Adams square up for the main event. Let's see who throws the first punch. Faceoff on Foxsoul starts right now.
I want my child to have trust in officers, but like right now he's been so traumatized until it's probably going to be hard.
A Mississippi police officer off the job and 5 others in big trouble for arresting a 10-year-old boy for urinating behind his mother's vehicle. Others in the town quickly chime in, saying they've encountered other crooked cops. Now the chief of police says the department will improve and learn from its mistakes. In today's first round, here's Quanell X.
Charles, for the Mississippi Police Department to arrest a 10-year-old child who was only urinating behind his mother's car because obviously the child could not hold it. And then this white cop comes up to investigate. He's watching, he pulls over to investigate, and he takes it upon himself to arrest a 10-year-old child because he was relieving himself behind the bumper of his mother's car. Then other police officers come to the scene. They don't say something's wrong with that. They don't ask him not to do that. They don't say write the mother a citation. They take him to jail. And we just witnessed another African-American child, 12 years old, in Michigan, who fit the description of a suspect. He's coming out of his house with a garbage can. He's arrested and detained also. What is it about young black boys and black men, period, in America, where white cops are willing to incarcerate and lock up black babies, little boys, who've committed no crimes? And the chief got the nerve to say, we will learn from this. There's not a damn thing he can learn from this, but to be removed with those crooked cops, the chief should be fired also.
Now, I will agree mostly with what you're saying. I think it was a horrifying incident. What all the press is reporting is that the initial officer just approached the kid and said, hey, you can't do this. And then took him in and found his mother, who was visiting an attorney right inside an office. And that it was one of the subsequent cops that arrived on scene that said, no, he has to be arrested. My initial question as a former officer, why the hell do you need backup to talk to a 10-year-old child about taking a piss in small-town Mississippi? I don't think anyone in America that is being honest is shocked at racial bias occurring in the deep south state of Mississippi. But what this reminded me the most of was Tamir Rice. Tamir Rice, in my opinion, is the most horrifying example of police misconduct that resulted in no consequence for the officer in the last 30, 40 years. We have a young black child playing with a toy gun at a park where you're supposed to play with toys. And an officer gets out, and we all know the story, less than a minute. No opportunity to drop the toy, no, executes that child. I think what we have a real problem in America, and you see it with white officers, but you also see it with a number of officers of color, is they fail to grasp the humanity of people that they don't feel any type of homogeneity with. And that's a real problem in America. We put so much focus on skin color and complexion, where all the medical data establishes that that has nothing to do with the person.
But Charles, white supremacy is what has infected literally every police department in America. And blatant racism and bigotry the lack of human compassion for children. This not just happening in Cleveland, happening in Mississippi, happening in Michigan also with the 12-year-old young man. But this has happened all across America for generations with young black boys who are put in handcuffs. Even a young black girl was put in handcuffs because she was throwing a temper tantrum at school and she was only 7 years of age. Black young men in particular are seen as threatening and dangerous to white police officers. And so they're only fueling the behavior and mental mindset that black men are a threat and that we're dangerous. For these cops to allow another cop, Charles, to convince them to put a 10-year-old child in jail? Where was the sergeant and lieutenants when he got to the jail said, what's wrong with you? Have you lost your mind? They're not out here arresting 10-year-old white boys. They're not putting 10-year-old white kids in handcuffs for urinating behind cars or taking out the garbage. America has built her police department's mindsets and has rewarded them for arresting young black children who should never have been arrested.
See, and I think what you're saying now is, I think, part of the real problem, right? Like, you're painting this portrait that's just not true, right? This police department, they did immediately release the child. The officer that encouraged her or stated he had to be arrested was immediately fired. The rest of the officers were suspended. 30, 40 years ago, none of that occurs. And to pretend like America hasn't evolved on these issues, but more importantly, police departments haven't evolved, I believe is actually a barrier to continuing to improve law enforcement. It's just like this absolute myth of ACAB and abolish prisons and defund and abolish police. There are monsters out there, but we need to redefine criminality, and we need to demand humanity, right? And it is appropriate for this man to be fired.
If they have evolved, why did not the other officers collectively say to the one who obviously lost his mind or was a racist, we're not going to back you on this? Remember, the officer who said he must go to jail was not the responding first officer on the scene. You're a former cop. You know the first officer on the scene is control of that scene. So for somebody to come up that's not a sergeant and tell a fellow officer, no, he got to go to jail, no, sir, man. Those other cops, had they evolved, would have told that one bad cop, go to hell, we're not putting this little baby in jail for urinating, you get out of here. They did not do that. So how evolved are they, Charles?
I was speaking generally. We have a rapidly more diverse law enforcement paradigm in America. We are moving away. See, my real problem with America now is we're conflating not prosecuting victim crimes with reform. And here, so we don't know. We don't know if it was a more senior officer. We don't know if it was a supervisor. We don't know the officer that made the decision, but clearly he made a decision and he has been fired and he should be fired. The officers who, I agree with you, the officers that didn't do anything, they also need trouble.
That's not enough.
Okay.
He should be charged with illegal detention.
Oh, I agree.
He should be charged with official oppression. And CPS should open up an investigation against him like they do black families all day, every day, all day in America for child abuse.
Okay, first of all, CPS does far too little in America. And there are too many
CPS should investigate some of these crooked cops who abuse young black children every day in America.
Children that get no relief. But more importantly, this is a time in America where you did see the officer immediately fired. And you'll agree with me, 20, 30 years ago, not a damn thing
was he arrested?
Happened. Okay?
He should have been charged with a crime.
So we need the federal government to charge him with violating that child's civil rights. And
the state can do it also.
I agree. I wouldn't hold my breath for the state of Mississippi to do the right thing on this deal.
Well, guess what? We just watched in Mississippi some of them white folding chairs. Mama, next time get your white folding chair.
Well, that was actually Alabama, but okay.
Well, guess what? Move Alabama and Mississippi right close together, baby. Get a white folding chair for that cop next time.
To tattoo or not to tattoo? In round 2 of today's Face-Off on Foxsoul, the guys go head-to-head talking about art on the head at work. Do you think Quanell X will win this round? Or will Charles Big Angry Adams throw a haymaker in the next round?
I feel like discrimination has gotten out of hand. I covered myself in to appease the public eye, to get hired at jobs that I really don't even want.
To cover or not to cover? An adult with face tattoo says they need to cover them with makeup to get a job without being discriminated against. In round 2, here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
This absurd video, Quanell, begs the question as to whether or not if you do something to yourself and the world perceives it, is that actually discrimination? We have a culture in the last 10 years in America, being a victim has been incentivized, right? It's been put on a pedestal, and now we have all of these malingerers, all these people that are rushing to claim the title of victimization when it's not applicable at all. And it clearly has an impact on the collective empathy America has for victims of actual discrimination. I see this woman who has her eyes black from tattooing her eyeballs. I didn't even know that was a thing. I had to look it up. She has ground her teeth down into fangs, has tattoos all over herself, a Caucasian woman. And there's a longer video, and she cries about places where she's seeking a job, discriminating against her from her appearance, and I think it's absolutely absurd. Now, I disagree with the argument that is often made that bigotry and racism cannot be directed at white people. I disagree with the empowerment theory. I think you have macro and micro power, and I think any decision, any negative thought that any person has, if you hate white people because they're white, if you hate black people because they're black, if you hate anyone because of the complexion of their skin and not their individual actions, well, I think that makes you a racist and bigot. I don't think if you dye your hair orange, or I don't know, it was a pink and green, I don't think that's discrimination.
Listen, Charles, you sound just like she sounds, all in the Kool-Aid and don't know the flavor. She is crazy as hell. That is not discrimination. She is the victim of self-mutilation. This young woman decided that she wanted to do something so extreme to be outside of the norm. And she wanted to do something that was such a provocative statement with her body that she would send shock into people. And now she's wondering why people who are quote unquote different from her, and she sought to be different from them to the extreme level, would look at her and say, baby, your mouth look like a vampire, your eyes look like a demon, and your face look like a convict who doing 2 life sentences. But she's wondering why she's being discriminated against. What she should do is speak to young people who are spiritually misguided, who are spiritually dead and disconnected from their families and from God and their higher power. Say to young people, this is the consequences when you self-mutilate your body. This is the consequences when you go to the extreme, attempting to make a statement and not consciously understanding that there's consequences that go with that. She's not a victim. That white girl is crazy. And she's using the word discrimination, and it's an insult to all of those who truly suffer discrimination, and it's an insult to women who suffer discrimination. She's the victim of self-mutilation. Look, deal with it. You did that to yourself.
You know, I don't know if you were just not paying attention, because you just said exactly what I said, but yet said you were disagreeing with me. Now, I'll tell you, the only nice thing I'll take that hair. I'll take any kind of hair to put on this bald ass head. But this woman is, I mean, we have this rampant, and I don't have a problem with tattoos, right? We have a number of people, and some of my very good friends have tattoos all over them. I will tell my clients in my criminal practice, it's a bad idea to show up to court with neck tattoos, hand tattoos, everything showing, because people, judges, prosecutors, other people, they form perceptions about people with tattoos that I often think is incredibly unfair. But we have this problem in America where, like you said, she was trying to make a statement by doing absurd, ridiculous, permanent changes to herself. And it's so much easier than making actual statements.
Could you
so much easier than achieving actual goals.
Going to a daycare for a job?
Could you picture her serving you McDonald's? I couldn't picture her doing that. Could you imagine being a little kid, going up to get your Happy Meal, all excited about that Frozen 2 toy or whatever's going on.
And she looking like Freddy Krueger.
And this woman is looking straight like a demon.
She makes Elvira look like child's play.
But you want to get a McFlurry from that.
But that's why it's important, Charles, that our young people understand something, because she appears to be a young woman. Our young people are misguided, Charles. And most of them
I don't think you can say that about all young
Charles,
people.
I said most of them today.
No, you just said young people.
No, most of our young people today are misguided. Because, Charles, many of those who self-mutilate like that, there's deeper psychological and mental health issues that have not been properly addressed. And so they self-mutilate because it's a mental condition to self-harm. What she really needs is therapy and counseling. And I would hope and pray that some doctor is out there, or dermatologist is out there, or some plastic surgeon is out there that maybe can help her have some reconstructive surgery. Because what she needs is not acceptance from people who are looking at her teeth looking like a vampire, but she could truly use some reconstructive surgery, and also some psychological therapy.
I disagree with your, first of all, clearly she's disturbed. Clearly there's underlying issues. You don't just tattoo your eyeballs. But I think that, first of all, I think the young generation of today is doing amazing things.
They crazy as hell.
They're doing amazing things.
They crazy as hell.
I don't think you can across the board condemn them. And I also think a lot of people embrace individualism. Right?
This present generation,
think people want to have.
They want everything in an instant. This present generation don't want to work for nothing. This present generation want to be accepted for anything and everything.
Locked in your home for 2 years in the middle of high school or university or elementary.
Charles,
these kids have faced
let me tell you something. Can you imagine growing up in segregation and slavery in America, but yet you still survive and mentally healthy strong?
Your condemnation of kids
this generation today
is absurd.
They don't even want to go outside and play. They want to sit and play video games all day. They go outside and get some sun. They go crazy.
Pay for sex or marriage? Why one former NBA player says, sex please, in today's main event. In round 3, to pay for sex or to date? Why a former basketball player says he pays for fun since it's cheaper than getting married. In the main event, here's Quanell X.
Charles, former superstar NBA basketball player Gilbert Arenas, made a statement on social media that caused some uproar and some shock, where he said he would rather pay a woman $250 for sex and get right to the point than take a woman out to eat, spend money on drinks and a $250 dinner plus drinks, get her nails done, get her hair done, buy her some outfits to wear, etc. Even go as further to say, well, if you marry her, you got to pay for her bills, and then you're divorced, you got to give her half your money. So he says it's just cheaper to spend $250 and get straight to it, insinuating that it's better for a man to pay for a prostitute for sex, in his case, than to see a woman having so much value that she's worth a $250 dinner without sex. Let me say this, Charles. It's shocking. It is sad, but we have too many young women out here today that are sending messages to young men like him, basketball players, entertainers, athletes, etc., businessmen, that you don't have to take me out to eat. You can pay me for sex. There's so many quote-unquote Instagram models that have been reduced to been proven to be Instagram hoes and prostitutes who are selling themselves. But every woman should know that your vagina is a sacred vessel and you're worth more than a $250 dinner. So if a man takes you out to eat and he expects sex, you tell him to get the hell away from you, that it'll take more than a $250 dinner to have sex with you, because you are the queens of the planet and every woman is sacred. Gilbert Arenas, is sad you would say such a thing, dear brother, but to some degree, he's speaking the truth of how many men think today, because so many women have lowered their value and their self-worth to let men think like that.
You know, I couldn't disagree with almost everything you said. First of all, Gilbert Arenas isn't really remembered for being a superstar. He's remembered for bringing a gun to the locker room after he allegedly stole $1,000 from another player in a card game and then got suspended for a season. Gilbert Arenas is one of those people born with a tremendous amount of talent, but has spent his life squandering the talent. He's also spent his life saying incredibly misogynistic things about women and having very bitter issues. Of course, famously, his fiancée and the mother of his children was alleged to have had an affair with Shaquille O'Neal. She sued him and he's made comments about his relationships being like prostitution. He has a history of saying horrifying things about women. And frankly, I feel like some of your comments were equally horrible. Do you just want to put women in burqas and not let them have any freedom? Women can do whatever it is they want to do. And to speak holistically about women is the same type of ism as speaking holistically about people of a certain race. It's blatant sexism. And ultimately it goes to, what are you looking for in a relationship? If you're just looking for a sexual release as a man, although it's a felony in Texas to buy sex, which I think is absurd, right? I don't think the government should be intruding into people's sex lives and whether any commerce is attached. But if a man or a woman is simply looking for sexual release, then hey, maybe it makes more sense to just go pay someone, but there's diseases and everything. But more importantly, that's a very stunted way of looking at relationships with a partner, whether it's a man or woman, right? You're looking for a companion. You're looking for a partner. You're looking for someone to build a life with. And I would look to the comments of Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, where they're equals, and they both provide equally to the household, and they have a relationship that they both cherish, right? I think Gilbert Arenas is an idiot. I think he has a long history of saying incredibly stupid things. I think he's a wannabe gangster, and as a wannabe gangster, he condemns women.
But Charles,
it's absurd.
You are truly the typical white man.
Well, there we go.
We're discussing what Gilbert Arenas said about women, in particular his view, but you had to dig back in the past and bring up the brother's criminal history that has nothing to do with the subject matter at hand. That brother's criminal history has nothing to do with this discussion. Charles, there are too many women today that are allowing rappers to dehumanize them on stages and in videos for the whole world to see. We have female rappers today making songs called WAP, Wet Ass Peas. We got female rappers today using female dancers to eat bananas out of the vaginas of other women, and yet we're calling it entertainment. We must tell the women of the world, you are the woman of God and not the woman of satanic influences. You're the woman of God and not the woman of satanic mindsets. All this about let women do whatever they want to do. With that comes consequences. And when you do whatever you want to do, well, then men of the world that you subject yourself to will have opinions about you that are ungodly. Gilbert Arenas is only speaking about women that he's dealt with, and it's a fact.
First of all, you started off by calling Gilbert Arenas an NBA superstar, and I merely pointed out that he was an NBA clown, because he was. And he's always been a clown, and he continues. You keep talking about women as if they are an object, as if they don't have freedom, but what you're really doing is failing to recognize why you have the women that are, and it's not great numbers, that's not true, but the women that are putting themselves on a pole, doing pornography, engaging in sex work, typically it's because men of our generation left the damn household and don't have a good relationship with their daughters. So you point the finger
we didn't
at
just
women,
leave the
just
house,
like
Charles.
that idiot Arenas did. You point the
Charles,
finger at women.
we did more. America has abandoned the moral standard of uplifting and raising women.
All the
and
fathers
America
of all races who aren't raising their daughters.
Hollywood in particular and entertainers have tricked so many women into devaluing themselves.
Absolutely not true.
And you are the women of God, not the women of the damn world.
That was the bell, Quanell.
And now to the final round.
I want to start with our first story tonight about the horrifying incident in Senatobia, Mississippi. That child was a child, and clearly the officers did not perceive him as a kid, and it was probably racially driven. Much like when Tamir Rice was assassinated, that officer didn't see that young man, and even a young boy, as a 12-year-old child playing with a gun. He just got out and killed someone. And the truth is, had it been a 10-year-old kid in I can't even pronounce that little town, Senatobia, Mississippi, he would have never been arrested. If Tamir Rice was a 12-year-old child playing with a toy gun in a park, he would have never been killed. And those are real issues that we need to address in America, but the way to address it isn't by abolishing police, defunding police, abolishing prisons. It's about building police forces, encouraging public service with people from the community that see the humanity of others. Now, if you talk about this whole Gilbert Arenas thing, women aren't objects. Women are free to make their own decisions. And it's sad what my partner here, Quanell, said.
I want to say to our young people, when you look at the young woman who self-mutilated herself with those tattoos and disfiguring her eyeballs, and now she's been discriminated against, be very careful when you do things to your body, for whatever the reason may be, that causes you internal issues to where the public is afraid of you and will discriminate against you. It should not happen, but they will, because one man and woman's perception is another's reality. Be careful, young brothers and sisters. Don't self-mutilate your bodies. If you want some therapy or some counseling, go to somebody who can help you. Brother Gilbert Arenas, my dear brother, Stop fishing at the bottom of the barrel, brother, when it comes to women. If you really want to see quality women, then go for highly educated women. Go for real successful career women, because I assure you they will show you that they can buy their own $250 meal. They can pay for their own dinner. They can pay for their own hair and nails. See, educated women like that, men like you often don't go after because they're a serious challenge to you. You go after women that are weak and vulnerable and then blame them for taking what you offer them, which are nothing more than crumbs, and then devalue them. Brother Gilbert, be the man that God wants you to be, brother, because God is all in you. Let the world see the God in you and not the men have such a bad opinion about his own women.
That's it for the Face-Off on Foxsoul. We'll catch you next time.